Hello and welcome to a special presentation from In the Money Media. This one is brought to you by our friends at Race Lens. This is a really interesting way of looking at form study, handicapping races, whatever you want to call it. A lot of tools for the players. And when we talk about Race Lens on the show, sometimes we reach out to Ben Kudla, Inside Track Podcast, who does a great job over there. Other times we reach for power user Matt Vagvolgyi, a regular on these In the Money Media airwaves. He's here with us today to talk all things Kentucky Derby. Matt, how are things?
Things are good. It's Derby week, right? I mean, that's it's always a great week. I'm in Studio C, I guess I call it here, of trying to figure out our way of getting on these airways here. But we got there, and it's Derby week, and it's always a great week. It's always a fun time, and looking forward to a great weekend of racing.
How do your preparations change / how do you use Race Lens specifically when it comes to the biggest 2 days of the year for many horse players, the Oaks and Derby?
To be honest, Pete, it doesn't really change much. There's just more, I would say, like more data, more horses, right? The more horses you add, the more data points you have, that kind of thing. But to me, that's where I almost compare it to, like, let's say like an NHC type situation where you've got so many races, so many horses. I still, to this day, from the very beginning to now, I use Race Lens to take a lot of data and kind of boil it down to, track profiles, post positions, pace. I get a really good sense of the track. I get a really good sense of both the dirt and turf, or synthetics involved. But for the Derby specifically, looking at dirt, turf, looking at different pace profiles, post positions, that sort of thing. It kind of whittles it down to a very easily understood. I get a better idea of the profile of the track, and then I kind of go from there. So to me, it takes a lot, brings it down to what I'm looking for, and I can kind of dig into to my own angles.
Let's have a look at some of what you found. I'll go ahead and share the screen here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so people can really see it. And then, Matt, you're going to talk us through these 3 Derby profiles we're going to share first and foremost today. What do you notice? How did you come up with this data on Rodriguez, and what does it mean to you?
Well, taking a look at, especially Baffert doing a lot of different things. And I think that's a fun way to play with Race Lens when it comes to trainers, when it comes to jockeys, when it comes to just connections in general, even on the ownership side. But when you look at it from here, to me, Baffert he does things well, and I try to find some of those maybe off the cuff things that he does. It's a little bit more, I would say, well known, but that 8 to 30 day layoff, a nice sample there of 150 starts, incredible win percentage, 33% wins, what you'd expect from Bob Baffert, and 61% in the money, and I think that's also important to a lot of these angles. I look for the in the money as well, because in the Derby itself, I am looking to play some more exotics. I'm looking to play more tries, more super high five. Probably the one time a year I actually play that bet. And then I also look at it too, just in terms of the profile of Rodriguez too. The ability to show some early speed, to be up close to the pace. Does carry the best Equibase late pace figure of 116. So that's certainly interesting given the profile of this horse being up close. 4 out of the last 5 Derby winners, if you look at the first and second call, which is something you can go and dissect in Race Lens and actually look at that kind of data, like drill it down even more, of no worse than third at the first and second call. Last 4 of the 5 Derby winners have come from that. So again, showing that you need to be up on the pace, be close to the pace. I love the idea here that we've got a strong late pace figure, and then something a little bit more general when you look at graded stakes playing into that late pace angle. For dirt routes, graded stakes at Churchill Downs, having that best late pace figure, just over the year, 22 starts, 36% wins, and a nice positive 14% ROI. So a couple different things that I think from a horse that might be left aside a bit. We'll certainly see as the days get closer. But I like the profile of the horse. I think Baffert has this horse placed well. Again, I think should be up close to the pace. And again, I like the numbers that come back and support it.
We're going to talk next about the favorite in the race. That is, of course, number 8, Journalism. You had a few good pulls here. This one, maybe an interesting partner, too, with a horse like Rodriguez. If you can really settle on him to prove the best of the speeds, and, certainly seems logical for Journalism to be considered the best closer. Tell me what you pulled here and how it changes the way you're looking at Journalism in this year's Derby.
Yeah, and again, to be fair, looking at Rodriguez having the best late pace figure, journalism's right there at 114, right? So, but also like the profile of this horse as well, that middle and late pace figures are very strong, and like you said, has that progressive pace style that I like, especially in a race like the Derby here. Again, this is going to be, I would say, one of the stronger favorites that I personally feel in the last few derbies. I looked at a lot of connections here. Again, I think maybe a lot of folks out there maybe not too familiar with McCarthy, but again, looking at it from a couple different stats standpoint, third off the layoff. Again, trying to find the sweet spot for trainers of where they really excel. And, again, a decent sample here of 99 starts, 25% wins, plus 16%. That should be ROI there, plus 16% ROI. So again, solid ROI, a good sample of starts there in the sweet spot of where McCarthy, I think, lives. Love to see the connection between McCarthy and Rispoli. 104 starts, 30% winners together. Gotta love that coming in with confidence, especially to the race, race like the Kentucky Derby. As I mentioned, like the pace profile as well, I think will be right in the mix there. I think so, like you said, Pete, sitting off that pace, very strong middle pace figure, very strong late pace figure. And then looking at it from a shipping standpoint, I thought this was interesting. I want to see, how does McCarthy do when shipping from a track outside of Churchill? Pretty strong. All right. The last year, 13 starts, smaller sample, 23% wins, very nice, positive 98% ROI. But if you stretch that out, I mean, again, somewhat of a normal stat there, but what I'm looking for is more of the extremes, right? Especially on the negative side. Is this a major negative for a trainer? Is really what I'm looking for here. And as you can see from both a year and also over a 5-year period, he certainly does well with shipping these horses. So again, from a connection standpoint, looking at from a jockey trainer, looking at the profile of this horse and how I see this race run, Pete, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult favorites in the Derby. Not something you probably want to hear in the Kentucky Derby, given the that you have. But again, I have to be from my own, I would say, from the qualitative side and the quantitative side. I think journalism is going to be very, very difficult in the Kentucky Derby on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're hearing from everybody. It's amazing. The consensus among sharp people starts to make me think maybe his price is going to be a little bit lower than I was expecting. I was fully expecting to get 3-1 on the day. What's your best guess as to what price he's going to be? What's your best guess as to what price he should be?
Whew. I think it's hard to pin down. I would say a price because these pools get so weird. It's like one of those races I gotta check. Like, is there like a common name in there that's gonna take weird money, right? It's kind of a
the weird money angle this year, I keep saying on these shows, might just come from Sandman. Not only kind of a cool name, but the whole Griffin Johnson, 10 million followers on TikTok. The horse has become a legitimate TikTok star in his own right. It would not surprise me if there's, $100,000 that have never bet money before on that one. And in the Derby, that can make a difference.
Yeah, and I would say I just heard on this morning that the breakfast at Churchill was Metallica getting involved as well. So lot of different angles there, Pete. So it's hard to say, but I think journalism will be a relatively short price in the Derby, right? Like that 4 to 5 to 1, I'd say is somewhat normal. I think I think goes off less than that. I think you're going to see a gravitation of dollars coming into journalism. I just think is a pretty big separation when it comes to this field. But again, with consensus, my thought is try to go the opposite of what everyone is thinking, right? One of my favorite sayings from I think it's Einstein: when you find yourself on the side of the overwhelming majority, it's time to pause, reflect, and rethink. So who knows? Maybe journalism finishes 15th and East, on the stretch. So, but again, you have to go on what you've got, and I just think journalism comes into this race, really looking strong, and I think is going to be a tough foe as the favorite here.
That is a brilliant line for horse players, no doubt about it. But I always take it the other way. Not always, but in this instance, I mean, this to me, and people tell me I'm nuts, but I feel like if this was just a race with his attributes, with the trip he looks to get, you're looking at a horse that I make about 3-2 in the race. I know it's hard to do that in a 20 horse
Yeah.
field, but I think he has the attributes to do it. And you're going to give me 3-1 on a 3-2. I'm going to be with the public in that situation, because to me, he's still going to represent value if he's that 3-1. And
It's
even if
all,
he's 2-1,
yeah,
that's
it's all relative value. And I have this conversation a lot of, well, would you ever bet an even money horse or a 45 shot? I'm like, yeah. I mean, if I price this horse, significantly less than what I'm getting, and I also like the idea of that there is attraction to the horse in the pool, right? As if I have a horse at 4-5 and the horse is 10-1, I'm wrong, right? I'm just wrong. But again, if I have, a horse that's, even money, and, I price the horse at 1-5, I'm going to bet the horse, right? I mean, to me, that's incredible value. It's not just the actual price itself, but it's the value. I know that conversation happens a lot in the horse racing world, but you're absolutely right, Pete. You get 3-1 on a horse that you're pricing that way, you're certainly going to go to the windows for it.
Let's move on and talk about the other Bob Baffert trainee in here. That's number 1, Citizen Bull, your 2-year-old champion. What do you think about this one's chances overall? And talk us through the Race Lens data.
Yeah, I kind of went. I would say from the people that I've been discussing the race a bit, this has been a horse that is. I don't think there could be more negativity coming on this horse, of just really dismissing the chances of Citizen Bull. But again, I'm kind of in that camp, to be honest with you, if I look at it from a full picture, Pete. But I wanted to show Citizen Bull because if you look at it on a profile standpoint, I found a small sample Bob Baffert angle, right? Like, again, we showed more with a larger sample. This is something that's a little bit smaller. I thought second off the layoff, first time blinkers off, 10 starts, 5 wins, positive 39% ROI. Again, only 10 starts there, but maybe this is something that can certainly jump out as a way to look back at this horse and give this horse another shot. But this horse also ranks number 1 in, I think, some key categories. Some of the advanced analytics that we have on Race Lens now that you can play around with. This horse ranks first in average earnings per race, on a graded stake standpoint, and then also too on mile per hour and strides per second. Right, some of these advanced metrics of how this horse moves. This horse ranks number 1 across the board. Also comes in with a bullet 5 furlong work that we've talked about before, Pete. Within that 7-day period, showing that sharpness. That's a Baffert style to bring a horse. Trains his horses hard. Like to see a horse with a bullet within the last week. And again, a large sample there. That's more of a general sample there of the 918 starts. But I mean, 20% wins over half the time in the money with that large sample. And a negative 4% ROI is not bad at all. So again, you kind of look at this as a whole. When I'm hearing a lot of negativity, I want to look back and say, is there something in the numbers that tells me maybe a different story? And I think Citizen Bull might be one of them. And it plays into, again, how I use Race Lens. Like if I'm seeing something at the track and I'm curious, whether it's, pace angle or just, different trainer maybe I've not have heard of before. But, to me, this is also another one. When I'm hearing a lot of negativity and I'm hearing a lot of folks dismissing the chances of any horse, not just Citizen Bull here, I'm going to go back and dig in a little bit, see if there's anything that I can find that might make me look at this horse a little bit different and get paid to play the horse.
One thing I do need to note is I am nearly sure they have changed their tune about the blinkers off, and that he is. I heard that he is going to be wearing them now. I don't
Okay.
think that changes some of the other information here, and what you're doing. But I just wanted to put that out there, for factual accuracy
Yeah.
sake. I didn't notice that when I was looking at the slides before we went on air here, but I don't imagine that dampens your enthusiasm when you're talking about a big price that has these other positive attributes.
No, I would say I'm more looking at it from the bottom half there. To me, that the Baffert angle is an interesting angle, right? Something to pique my interest a little bit. So it's not that really doesn't change my thought too much there. To me, it's when you're looking at some of these advanced metrics and the horse ranks first across the board. And these things, to me, it just makes me want to rethink this horse. And it could be one of those where you look back, at when they cross the line in the Derby and this, and Citizen Bull is in front, you kind of kick yourself saying, you know what, the data was telling me this horse can win, that this horse belongs in this field. And again, on top of the negativity, you're definitely going to get a price on Citizen Bull.
We have seen horses too run big races in the Derby off of stinkers. Mandaloon obviously only became the winner months later in a courtroom, but I mean, he was coming off a dreadfully poor effort, not wholly unlike what Citizen Bull did. They can bounce back. Want to remind you that today's video is brought to you by our friends over at Race Lens. If you want to learn more, go to equibase.com and you can see right at the top of the page. I'm not sure it's showing up on my screen share, but you can see where the Race Lens tab is. If you're a new customer, that'll give you an opportunity to see any kind of promo offers that are available. Because I'm a subscriber and I'm signed in, it just goes right to my PPs there, which is why it looks a little bit different. But want to encourage folks to go to equibase.com, learn more about Race Lens, powered by Equibase. A lot of great information. Really quickly, there's tell us about a service within the Race Lens umbrella, Matt, the True Odds, because I know that's something that you use from time to time.
Yeah, True Odds is interesting. It's kind of, I would say, their AI approach to coming up with win probabilities, coming up with in the money probabilities, what their projected price is, and then as it becomes live, you'll see it highlight in front of you of the discrepancies of odds of what they project versus what the pool has. It's also easy to toggle through. It has their late pace figures in there as well, has their running style in there as well. So if you want to try to rank it by who has the best late pace or different running styles, you want to rank it by, best to worst odds, win percentage. It gives you their pace projection as well. So it's a real, I would say, quick and dirty way to look. And to be honest, I've had a couple of winners in the NHC and contests like that, just by looking at that data and seeing a horse that ranks well at a big price to play. Now, I will say this, I'm a big fan of looking at True Odds. I do incorporate it with my own modeling that I do. Not to knock it down, but I will say this. I didn't put this up there on the slides, Pete, but if you go back to the last 5 derbies, 3 out of the last 5 derbies, True Odds has had the horses won. True Odds has given a 10% or less probability to win the race, right? So sometimes you're back in the model, sometimes you're fade the model. Just throw that out there. Sometimes you may want to look to fade because, again, I noticed that pretty high percentage in the last 5 derbies of less than 10% getting it done at some decent prices there too, Pete. So something I saw.
A lot of ways to use the data. It does sound great for contests. That just makes me think quickly of a question to ask you about the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge, new horse racing major back coming up this weekend. Are we gonna see your name among the leaders in the KDBC? Do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm coming out of my retirement, so to speak, of contests. I went off and got promoted to do something else. Time goes out the window. So, but now I'm actually looking forward to it, to getting back and playing some more contests this year. It's funny when you're away from something for a little while, you start to miss it. And I think when you start to miss it, you kind of have an open mind to it. You look at it differently. You're more excited about it. You're more into it, other than when you're grinding out and you're just playing one after the other after the other. Sometimes it becomes mind numbing a bit. So it's good to take a break. It wasn't a planned one, but I'm looking forward to getting back into the contest world here.
The pause that refreshes. Folks interested in that should go to twinspires.com. Their tournaments tab give you an opportunity to see what this KDBC is all about. They're not sponsoring this video, but they're doing so much with us here on the In the Money Media Network. And yeah, you talk about contest FOMO. I can see the KDBC being one of those that generates that. Let's get back to a couple of more things. Actually, before I put this info up on screen, I want to ask you, because you were saying something interesting off air about your general approach to trainer and jockey stats around a race like this.
Yes, it's something I've talked before about, and I kind of have, kind of a different way of looking at this. For me, when you look at trainer stats, for the most part, I dismiss it. I just feel like you may have a trainer that just, the way horses are coming around, the way layoffs happen, you hit these cycles of where it's not necessarily that they're doing anything different. It's just maybe their stock is just not ready to run, not finding the right spots. It gets a little bit more difficult as a trainer, and they have their ebbs and flows that way. I look at it for the extreme, where maybe if it's a trainer that I haven't heard of, that hasn't done well, and all of a sudden is doing very well, I then dig into the ownership. Maybe they have a different connection in terms of owners, right? So that could change that profile of that trainer moving forward. But I really do look at it from a jockey standpoint. This is more of an athlete thing, to be truly honest with you. And that kind of go back to my hockey days of like when you're confident and you're playing at the best of your ability, you're not thinking, you're excited. It's this nice, like,
What state?
yeah, it's like this numbing adrenaline feeling where you're not thinking at all. You're just playing and you're just like, to me it was like, how many goals am I getting tonight? Right. I'm not even thinking about anything else. How am I going to absolutely annihilate who I'm playing? Right now. And that's a good thing, right? So you're not thinking, you're just instincts are taking over and you're moving forward. On the opposite side, right? On the opposite side, when you're not playing well and it's just you feel like you have no idea what's going on. Have I ever played this game before? What's happening? I can't get out of this. I had everybody from my head coach to the team doctor telling me what I'm doing wrong and what I can do better. It gets into your head, and it's the opposite. You think every second of the day you're out there, like, make, again, using hockey analogies, make the simple pass, like don't try to force things. I'm in my wind up shooting and it's like, please hit the net for once, right?
Right.
It's in your head. You're constantly thinking. That's the last thing, because when you think, you hesitate, and hesitation is the worst thing you can do in any sport. You factor that into horse racing, to me, it amplifies by 1,000%, right? Like when you're on your game and that tiny hole opens up on the rail, you're not thinking. You're going to dart towards it. They're going to go take that spot. And again, they're not even going to think about what the repercussions could be. When you're not riding well and that spot opens, I can't get cut off again. Let me just wait. Let me go outside, get to open space, and try to go from there. You finish third, right? So, to me, I think that plays a lot into the confidence of the jockey, and especially a race like the Kentucky Derby. That's an event all in and of itself, right? It's where everybody is paying attention to horse racing, whether they're fans or hardcore players. I look at that a lot. I think that's important to me, especially with these athletes and how quick decisions they have to make. I think their current state, I think, also plays into their success going forward. So that's kind of my idea there. And again, it's more of a kind of personal connection. But what I did was I kind of broke it down and say, like, all right, who's coming into the Derby that's hot and who's not? Flavian Pratt, Mike Smith, Alberta Rispoli. Ramos is I would say a new face in there as well. But again, from the last 10 days, from 30 days, I mean, you're looking at some really solid percentages there. I know Mike Smith may not have the big sample size, but again, seeing the ball well and having confidence coming into this race, I think is important. I think especially a guy like Rispoli. I've been following him quite a bit. Also Pratt as well, but I would say Rispoli as well. When he gets on some of these streaks and he is just riding well, he's just lights out, and you could tell the way he rides, the confidence that he has. Gets caught in a tough position. He almost has that like Ramon Dominguez, like ice water in the veins. Just waits for that perfect spot to open up and takes off. So to me, I think confidence is important, and I think some of these numbers give you an idea of who's coming in hot to the Derby on a jockey perspective.
Let's talk turkey about it, though. I mean, are you saying that Pratt is riding well enough that you'll be leaving Neo Equos in for some of your exotic wagers?
No, but again, if you kind of back out from the horse and you want to see, okay, who's aboard, right? I mean, again, that might make you think a little bit differently of that. No, I mean, it comes down to, in this game, it comes down to the horse, right? The horse's ability. So no, I wouldn't. But again, I just think if you have an idea or an angle on that particular horse or any of these horses that these jockeys are riding, right? To look at, okay, how is the jockey coming in, right? What's the confidence level there? That might give you that extra push to say, you know what, I am gonna use this horse. I'm gonna figure out a way to have this horse in the overall exotics. But again, when I look at it from like on a favorite perspective, right? I mean, what we talked about before, I think Rispoli comes in, clear-minded, ready to rock and roll. Good sample there, hitting at a high percentage. So I think confidence in the ability of the horse and confidence in the jockey as well, I think kind of gives you even more to look at a horse like that.
And Rispoli, of course, on your favorite journalism. That might be a question for some who aren't familiar with him, but both of us would tell you he's a positive in the irons. These numbers back that up. Mike Smith, he's a little bit of a cyclical rider at this point in his career. Good to see him on a warmer streak. He's on Rodriguez. We talked about him. It sounds like he's one that will be on your radar. And Ramos, for those that aren't aware, riding Flying Mohawk, who many do consider to be a live long shot. So some interesting ones to underline there. Of course, we got to look at the flip side of things here in the who's not. Tell us, are you concerned about any of these?
Yeah. I mean, again, I would say if I had to pick between one in terms of like, who's fully confident and who's not, I'm going to lean towards who's not, because again, just what I talked about before, that lack of confidence, maybe overthinking of what they're doing here. And again, some of these really jump out at you. Are they going to be on big time contenders? Maybe not. But again, you look at a guy like Joel Rosario, who I mean, probably the most volatile chart you can look at for a jockey is coming in on a downswing here. And to me, like, that's somebody, knowing Joel and how he kind of has these peaks and valleys. That's a jockey I would try to fade, looking at these particular numbers here. And the same thing with Alvarado as well. I mean, again, he can jump up and have a huge race, but not coming in with the best of statistics. Martin Garcia just really not riding much. And you mentioned, like, Mike Smith on the opposite side. When you're a Hall of Famer like Mike Smith, you get to say no, right? So he gets to pick and choose exactly where he wants to go. Again, not a ton of mounts there. Nick Juarez again, just coming in struggling. So again, I like to take this in as a perspective, and I do this for every kind of big race day, to be honest with you, to get a really good sense as where's the confidence, where's kind of the negativity that might factor into decision making, and then I kind of fall back into looking at the horse, looking at the complexion of the race. So again, a lot of what we talked about here, Pete, there's not one silo, there's not one answer. To me, it's a portfolio of information, and we've talked a lot about that before. And it's not just the data, right? It's the quantitative and the qualitative side too. So it's your handicapping acumen, it's your experience there. So to me, that's how I look at it. I kind of take all these different pieces, put it together, and kind of get a better sense of how I feel the race will be run.
Great food for thought, Matt. We encourage folks to check out the Equibase website, equibase.com. Navigate over to Race Lens. You'll see it right there on the top. See what kind of special offers they have going on for this year's Kentucky Derby. Matt, hope to have you back very soon to do some more. We'll make you do some actual pen and paper capping the next time through. We'll make you pick some winners. Any closing thought from you? Either if you want to share a definitive Derby opinion, or wish the viewers luck, and where do you want to leave this thing?
I think the horse I'm most interested in is Rodriguez in the Derby. Again, not the most popular play there, but again, if you ever want to do a really fun exercise, keep track of all your Derby picks and then go back and look at some of these horses you pick. It's absolutely hilarious. And again, but that's the Derby too, right? I mean, it's the time where all of your random friends and coworkers will reach out to you saying, "Who do you like in the Derby?" I compare it very much to the Super Bowl, right? The lines are incredibly efficient, right? The liquidity is there. These are like, my 8-year-old kids class running out for recess. I mean, that's kind of what it is when they break the gate. They're playing equine bumper cars out there. So to me, have fun with it. Play some exotics. Like I said before, I play the super high five here, and I have more fun with the Derby. But I also try to play into the Derby with your pick fives and pick six bets to try to get live there. So again, I think that Rodriguez is probably the horse that I like the most, especially looking at it from a price perspective. But no, I would say have some fun with the Derby. It's a great race, a lot of opportunities in different ways you can go. So no, it should be a lot of fun.
Great stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel. Give us a comment. Let us know what you thought of this video, and who you like in the Derby. We'd love to hear that as well. For Matt, I'm PTF. May you win all your photos.